The late afternoon sunlight filtered softly through the lace curtains of my suburban kitchen, casting warm patterns on the worn oak table where I sat nursing a cup of chamomile tea. The house was unusually quiet now, the bustle and laughter of Lily's wedding just 3 days behind us. I could still feel the echo of her laughter in the hallway, the gentle buzz of celebration that had filled every corner of this home since she was a child. But today, the silence felt different, heavier somehow, like a calm before a storm. I hadn't expected them to come by today. Lily and Mark, her new husband, had called earlier saying they wanted to drop off some photos from the reception and catch up. I welcomed the distraction. It had been a whirlwind week, and I was still trying to piece together the new normal that their marriage brought with it. The doorbell rang, sharp and unexpected, and I smoothed my skirt, setting the tea aside as I went to open it. They stood there on the porch, Lily glowing with the kind of happiness only a bride could wear so naturally, and Mark tall, confident, his smile easy but eyes calculating. They stepped inside, shedding their coats, and I led them to the kitchen where the light still lingered in the late afternoon air. Lily immediately began pulling out the photos, handing me the album with a bright smile that made my chest ache with pride. Mark lingered by the counter, his hands in his pockets, watching me as though measuring my every move. The conversation flowed easily at first, stories about the wedding, plans for the honeymoon, and Lily's excitement about her new life. But then Mark shifted, casually steering the talk toward family matters. "So, your father's estate," he said, his tone light but unmistakably pointed. "Have you thought about how you'll handle the inheritance? Lily and I have been discussing future planning, and we want to make sure everything's clear and fair." I paused, my fingers tightening around the photo album. The mention of the estate always stirred a complex mixture of emotions in me. My late husband had left behind more than just memories, a sizable inheritance carefully kept secret from everyone, even Lily. I had chosen to shield her from the knowledge, fearing it would only complicate things, attract the wrong kind of attention, and perhaps even change her. Mark's eyes met mine, waiting for a response. I forced a smile, placing the album gently on the table. "Well, it's early days yet," I said softly, careful to keep my voice steady. "Lily and I haven't really sat down to discuss those details. There's still so much to figure out." He nodded, but there was a flicker of something unreadable in his expression, an almost imperceptible tightening around his mouth, a calculating glint in his eyes. I felt a sudden chill, though the room was warm, and I told myself it was nothing. Lily reached over and squeezed my hand, her warmth a balm to the unease creeping up my spine. "Mom, I want you to be part of all this. Mark and I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, that nothing is left unsaid." Her words were sincere, but I sensed Mark's involvement was more strategic than it appeared. They didn't know about the $10 million tucked away in offshore accounts and investments, assets my husband and I had painstakingly built over the years, hidden from the world to protect our family. I had kept it secret not to deceive Lily, but to safeguard her from the kind of greed and expectation that could poison relationships. As the afternoon waned, I found myself retreating inward, weighing every word, every glance. Mark was charming, no doubt about that, but there was something beneath the surface that unsettled me. His casual mention of the inheritance was not mere curiosity, it was a probe, a test to see how much I was willing to reveal. After they left, the house seemed emptier than before. I sat back down at the kitchen table, the photo album open but forgotten, the laughter from the wedding replayed in my mind, a sharp contrast to the knot forming in my stomach. I realized that the joyful celebration was over, and now the real story was just beginning, one that would test my resolve and the bonds of family I held so dear. I reached for my notebook, pulling it close. It was time to start planning, to think carefully about how to protect what my husband and I had built without alienating Lily or revealing too much too soon. The silence of the house was no longer peaceful, it was a warning. The days ahead would demand vigilance and strategy, and I was determined to meet them head-on, no matter the cost. The knock at the door came early, before the sun had fully risen, its sharp rapping echoing through the quiet house. I was still in my robe, the edges frayed from years of comfort, when I opened the door to find Mark standing there, a manila envelope clutched in his hand, his expression unreadable beneath the soft morning light. For a moment, I hesitated, a knot tightening deep in my chest. The casual visits and polite conversations from just days ago now felt like a distant memory, replaced by something far more deliberate. "Morning, Claire," he said, his voice steady but with an edge that I couldn't quite place. "I thought it best to bring this by personally." He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, the envelope heavy between us as he extended it across the kitchen table. I took it, my fingers brushing the smooth paper, and felt a chill wash over me. Inside was a legal contract, carefully drafted, formal, and unmistakably binding. As I unfolded the pages, the words blurred for a moment before the gravity of what I was reading sank in. Mark's intent was clear. Through this contract, he sought to claim rights over the inheritance my late husband had left me, leveraging his recent marriage to Lily as the foundation for his demands. The realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. This was no innocent conversation about future planning. This was an encroachment, a strategic move to secure a foothold in the fortune I had guarded so jealously. I sat back, the contract resting on the table like a challenge. For years, I had kept the details of the $10 million inheritance tightly under wraps, believing that ignorance was the safest shield for Lily. I had wanted her to grow up free from the burden of wealth, to find her own path without influence or expectation clouding her choices. But now that secrecy felt vulnerable, like a fragile barrier under threat. Mark watched me carefully, waiting for a response that I was not ready to give. The weight of his ambition filled the room, and I found myself questioning how I had missed the signs, how I had not seen the true nature of this man before he became part of my family. I gathered my composure and forced a calm smile. "Mark, I appreciate you bringing this by, but I need time to review it carefully with my attorney. These matters are complex, and I want to ensure everything is handled properly." He nodded, but the hint of impatience in his eyes betrayed his confidence. "Of course, I just want to make sure we're all protected, Claire. It's in everyone's best interest." After he left, the house felt colder, the silence more oppressive. I sat back down at the kitchen table, the contract staring back at me like a gauntlet thrown down. The next few days passed in a blur of restless nights and whispered phone calls to my trusted attorney, Margaret Ellis, a woman known for her keen intellect and unwavering loyalty. Margaret listened intently as I explained the situation, her tone grave but measured. "Claire, this isn't just about the contract. Mark is trying to establish legal control over assets he has no right to, using his marriage as leverage. We need to be strategic. You can't reveal everything, at least not yet." Together, we began crafting a cautious plan. Margaret advised me to prepare misleading financial documents, decoys that would placate any immediate scrutiny without exposing the true extent of the inheritance. We set legal safeguards in place, contingencies to stall any premature attempts by Mark to access funds or assert control. Each step was delicate, a balancing act between protecting the assets and maintaining the fragile peace within the family. I wrestled with guilt and fear as I masked the truth from Lily, hoping my silence would shield her from pain. Yet beneath it all, I knew this was only the beginning of a difficult journey. One evening, as I reviewed the draft documents, the phone rang. It was Lily. Her voice was bright, unaware of the storm gathering beneath the surface. "Mom, I was just thinking about you. How are you holding up with all this wedding aftermath?" I smiled, the warmth in her tone a balm to my troubled mind. "I'm managing, sweetheart, just taking one day at a time." She hesitated, then added softly, "Mark and I talked about the future again. He's eager to get everything settled, make sure we're all protected. I hope you don't feel pressured." Pressure was exactly what I felt, tightening like a vise around my heart. "I appreciate that, Lily, but some things take time. I want to get it right." We ended the call with promises to see each other soon, but I felt the widening gap between us built on secrets and half-truths. The contract lay on the kitchen table, a symbol of the shifting ground beneath my feet. Days later, Mark's lawyer arrived unannounced, delivering a formal notice demanding my signature on the contract. I refused, stating firmly that I would not sign anything without thorough legal review and discussion with my attorney. The confrontation was tense but necessary. I needed to stand my ground to show that I was not so easily cornered. That night, I sat alone in the dim light of the study, the contract still unopened before me. I thought about my husband, about the years we had spent building a legacy not just of wealth but of security and hope for our family. I had hidden it all to protect Lily, but now the secret threatened to unravel everything. I knew I had to be stronger than ever to navigate this new reality with care and resolve. My trust in Mark was shattered, replaced by a wary vigilance. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready to fight not just for the fortune but for the family I loved, for the future I wanted to safeguard. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the house. Outside, the world moved on, oblivious to the quiet war being waged within these walls. I closed the study door, taking a deep breath, steeling myself for the days to come. This was only the beginning, and I was determined to protect my legacy at any cost. Days slipped by with a slow, suffocating weight, each one marked by a growing tension that I could no longer ignore. The contract Mark had thrust upon me sat like a silent accusation on my desk, its presence a constant reminder of the battle unfolding beneath the surface of my once peaceful life. The veneer of civility was thinning, and I knew that if I didn't act decisively, Mark's ambitions would unravel everything my late husband and I had built. I called Margaret Ellis again, arranging for her to come over that afternoon. When she arrived, her sharp eyes took in the contract immediately, scanning every clause with a practiced gaze. "Mark's lawyer has certainly done their homework," she remarked, flipping through the pages. "They're trying to corner you legally, making it seem like a reasonable agreement while stripping you of control." I nodded, my hands clenched tightly. I can't let him have access, not yet, but I don't want to alienate Lily either. She's caught in the middle and I don't want to lose her. Margaret's expression softened, but her resolve remained firm. "We need to buy time, Claire. Stall him without outright confrontation. I'll draft a response that acknowledges receipt but requests a thorough review period. Meanwhile, we prepare alternate financial documents, decoys, to present if Mark pushes for specifics." The concept of deception weighed heavily on me, but I understood the necessity. Margaret and I worked late into the night, crafting a series of legal safeguards and misleading financial statements. The decoy documents portrayed a modest estate, far less than its true worth, with funds tied up in trusts and investments that were not immediately accessible. It was a carefully constructed illusion, designed to deflect Mark's advances and reveal the true extent of his intentions. In the days that followed, Mark's visits became more frequent, each time accompanied by his lawyer or a growing stack of paperwork. He spoke with increasing insistence about transparency and fairness, framing his demands as reasonable and in the best interest of the family. But beneath his polished words lay a persistent pressure that gnawed at me. One afternoon, as I sat reviewing the latest contract revision, my phone buzzed with a text from Lily. "Mom, can we meet for lunch tomorrow? I want to talk." The simplicity of the message sent a ripple through me. I knew this conversation was inevitable. At the cafe the next day, sunlight spilled across the table where Lily and I sat facing each other. Her eyes were bright but shadowed with uncertainty. Mark was noticeably absent, and I wondered if this was her attempt to distance herself from the growing conflict. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," Lily began, stirring her coffee nervously. "Mark says that we need to be transparent, that secrets can only hurt us. I want to believe that, Mom. I want us to be a family without walls between us." I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine. "Lily, I've kept things from you to protect you from greed, from people who might not have your best interests at heart. It wasn't because I didn't trust you, but because I wanted to shield you from the complications that come with wealth." She squeezed my hand, but her brows furrowed. I understand that, but Mark says you're hiding more than just money, that there's a lot at stake. I'm torn between trusting you and trusting him. The admission stung, a painful fissure in the bond I had hoped would remain unbroken. I swallowed hard, choosing my words carefully. You have to trust your own judgment, Lily, and you have to be cautious. Some people see opportunity in trust, and that can lead to betrayal. Her eyes searched mine, a silent plea for guidance. I wanted to shield her from the harsh truths, but I also knew that honesty was the only foundation strong enough to withstand this storm. When I returned home, I found a letter slipped beneath the door, a formal request from Mark's lawyer demanding access to certain accounts, citing the marriage contract as justification. It was a clear escalation, a move to force my hand. I called Margaret immediately, her voice calm but firm as she advised me to respond with the prepared documents, emphasizing pending legal review and contesting any immediate access. We'll stall him legally while gathering evidence of his intentions, she assured me. Patience is our ally. Behind the scenes, Margaret began digging deeper into Mark's background, uncovering financial troubles and past dealings that raised red flags. The more I learned, the more I realized how precarious the situation had become. Each interaction with Mark felt like a carefully staged performance. His charm was a mask, his genuine warmth a calculated facade. I found myself growing wary of every smile, every casual remark. One evening, as I sat by the window watching the fading light, my phone buzzed with a message from Lily. Mom, I'm scared. I don't know who to believe anymore. My heart ached at her uncertainty, knowing that the web of deceit was tightening around us both. I replied quickly, we'll get through this together. Trust your instincts and remember I'm always here. The days ahead promised more challenges. I was no longer just a grieving widow protecting a secret. I was a strategist, a guardian of a legacy threatened by a man who saw marriage as a means to an end. I steeled myself for the battles to come, determined to navigate the delicate balance between protecting my daughter and defending the fortune my husband left behind. In the quiet moments, I revisited the memories of happier times, my husband's steady smile, the warmth of our family gatherings, and drew strength from those moments. The fight was far from over, but I was resolved. Mark's contract was just a piece on a larger chessboard, and I intended to play the game with every ounce of cunning and care I possessed. As the night deepened, I closed my notebook and turned off the lamp, knowing that tomorrow would bring a new set of challenges. But for now, I allowed myself a brief moment of peace, gripping the fragile hope that truth and love would ultimately prevail. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window, but it did little to brighten the heaviness that had settled over the house. I sat at the table, the decoy financial documents spread before me like a fragile shield against the storm brewing outside. The past few days had been an exhausting blur: legal letters, tense phone calls, and whispered conversations with Margaret. Yet despite the careful defenses we'd put in place, I sensed the pressure mounting, a tightening noose around what little peace remained. The phone rang, jolting me from my thoughts. It was my banker, a voice edged with caution. Mrs. Harper, I need to inform you of an attempted withdrawal from one of your accounts, one that's been inactive for some time. The request came through a device registered to your daughter, Lily. I felt the world tilt beneath me. An inactive account, one I had hoped would remain untouched, was suddenly under scrutiny. Someone was digging deeper than I had anticipated. The thought of Mark, or worse, Lily, unknowingly entangled in this web sent a shiver through me. I called Lily immediately, trying to mask the urgency in my voice. Sweetheart, would you have any idea why your tablet might be linked to a bank access request? There was a pause on the other end. No, Mom, I haven't tried to access any accounts recently. Why? I forced a reassuring tone, just making sure everything is all right. Maybe it was a mistake. Her voice trembled slightly. I'll check my tablet, Mom. Maybe someone else has been using it. As the call ended, I resolved to confront Mark directly. I needed answers, and I needed to protect Lily from being caught in the crossfire of his schemes. Later that afternoon, I invited Lily for lunch at the small bistro near my home, hoping for a neutral setting where we could talk openly. When she arrived, her eyes held a mix of confusion and concern. Mark was noticeably absent, and I wondered if this was her attempt to take control of the situation herself. "I wanted to talk to you about the bank alert," I began gently. "There was an attempt to withdraw funds from an old account, one you barely knew existed. The request was made using your tablet." Her brow furrowed in disbelief. "I don't understand. Why would anyone do that, and why use my device?" I hesitated, then decided honesty was necessary. "I believe Mark has been trying to access the inheritance through any means possible. The contract was just the start. There's more going on behind the scenes." Her eyes widened, a flicker of betrayal crossing her face. "Are you saying Mark's been dishonest, but he's my husband?" "I know this is hard to hear," I said softly, reaching for her hand. "But I've seen signs, legal pressure, attempts to access accounts, and now this. I'm trying to protect you, Lily." Tears welled in her eyes as she struggled to process the revelation. "I don't want to believe it, but I feel like I've been caught between two worlds. I don't know who to trust." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of distrust settling between us. Then, slowly, she nodded. "I want to help. What can we do?" I shared the details Margaret and I had uncovered, the legal maneuvers, the decoy documents, and the plan to gather evidence of Mark's true intentions. Together, we agreed to be vigilant, to communicate openly, and to face this challenge as a united front. The next days were a flurry of activity. Margaret obtained records exposing Mark's past financial troubles and questionable dealings. We compiled the evidence carefully, preparing to present it to Lily with the hope that she would see the truth before it was too late. One evening, as I reviewed the files, Lily called me with a shaky voice. "Mom, I found something: emails between Mark and a financial advisor discussing ways to access the trust funds. He's been planning this for months." I felt a cold wave of vindication mixed with sorrow. "Thank you for telling me, Lily. We'll use this evidence to confront him." The confrontation came sooner than I expected. At a neutral location, Margaret arranged a meeting with Mark, Lily, and me. The room was tense, the air thick with unspoken accusations. Margaret laid out the evidence: contracts, emails, financial records, each piece meticulously documented. Mark's confident facade began to crack as the truth unfolded before him. When confronted, Mark's demeanor shifted from arrogance to desperation. He tried to justify his actions, claiming it was all for the family's benefit, but his words rang hollow against the mounting proof. Lily looked between us, her expression torn but resolute. "I can't be part of this deceit, Mark. If you truly cared about me, you wouldn't have hidden these schemes." Faced with exposure and the collapse of his carefully constructed plans, Mark reluctantly agreed to withdraw his financial claims and sever his ties to the inheritance. The weight of the moment pressed down on all of us, but relief mingled with the pain of broken trust. As we left the meeting, I felt an overwhelming sense of exhaustion, but also a spark of hope. Lily and I had weathered the storm together, our bond tested but not broken. The shadows cast by greed and deception were fading, replaced by a fragile light of understanding. Back at home, Lily and I sat quietly in the kitchen, the wedding photos resting on the table between us. I reached out, taking her hand, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the warmth of trust rekindled. "We'll face whatever comes next together," I promised. She smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the strength we'd found in each other. "No more secrets, Mom." And in that moment, amidst the quiet hum of the evening, I believed we could rebuild what had almost been lost. The days that followed the confrontation with Mark were a whirlwind of revelations and difficult conversations. The fragile relief I felt after Mark agreed to withdraw his claims was tempered by the sobering reality that the damage he had done, both financially and emotionally, would take time to heal. Lily and I were left to pick up the pieces, navigating a landscape reshaped by betrayal and mistrust. Margaret and I continued to pore over the evidence we had gathered, uncovering more about Mark's past, his mounting debts, a string of failed ventures, and a pattern of manipulative behavior that extended far beyond what we had initially suspected. Each detail was a thread that, when pulled, unraveled the carefully constructed image he had presented to Lily and to me. One afternoon, Margaret sat across from me in the study, her eyes grave but resolute. "Claire, this is more than just a financial dispute. Mark's history shows a propensity for manipulation and deceit. Your instincts were right to be cautious." I nodded, the weight of it pressing down on me. "I just want to protect Lily. She's so vulnerable, caught in the middle of all this." Margaret reached across the desk, her hand steady on mine. "We'll make sure she's protected legally and emotionally. The key now is transparency with Lily and within the family." I thought back to the early days after my husband's passing, the decisions I had made to keep the inheritance a secret. It was a choice born of love and fear, meant to shield Lily from greed and false friends. But now I saw that secrecy had left her exposed in other ways, unprepared for the realities she was facing. I arranged for a private meeting with Lily, determined to share everything I knew and everything I had kept from her. We sat in the quiet of the living room, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the floor. I took a deep breath and began. "There's something I need to tell you, Lily, about the inheritance and about why I never told you." Her eyes searched mine, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "I'm listening, Mom." I spoke slowly, recounting the story of the fortune left by your father, the careful steps I took to protect it, and the reasons for my silence. I explained the legal measures Margaret and I had put in place, the decoy documents, and the warnings I had tried to heed about those who might seek to exploit us. Lily's face softened, a flicker of understanding breaking through the confusion. "I wish you had told me sooner, but I see why you did. I just didn't expect Mark to be the one to break through that wall." Tears welled in her eyes as she reached out to hold my hand. "Thank you for protecting me, even if I didn't know it." We spent hours talking that day, bridging the gap that secrecy had created. It was a difficult conversation, but a necessary one that laid the foundation for rebuilding trust and forging a stronger connection. As the weeks passed, Lily grew more involved in the legal proceedings. Together with Margaret's guidance, we prepared to safeguard the inheritance fully, restructuring trusts and reinforcing protections against further attempts by Mark or anyone else to gain access. Lily confronted Mark again, armed with the knowledge and evidence we had compiled. The conversation was painful but decisive. Mark's charm had faded, replaced by resignation as he realized the strength of the opposition he faced. He agreed to relinquish any claims and sign documents severing his financial ties to the estate. With Mark's withdrawal, a heavy burden lifted from our shoulders, but the emotional scars remained. Lily and I found ourselves leaning on each other more, sharing fears and hopes in ways we hadn't before. One evening, after a quiet dinner, Lily looked at me with a new determination. "Mom, I don't want this to define us. I want to move forward with honesty and openness." I smiled, the warmth in her voice a balm to my tired heart. "I want that too, Lily. No more secrets. We face the future together." In the days that followed, we began to rebuild not just the legal protections around the inheritance, but the fragile trust that had been tested so severely. We talked openly about the challenges ahead, the lessons learned, and the strength we found in each other. Margaret remained a steady presence, guiding us through the complexities of estate management and legal safeguards. Her expertise was invaluable, but it was the renewed bond between Lily and me that became the true foundation for our resilience. As I watched Lily blossom into a woman who understood not just the weight of wealth but the importance of integrity and vigilance, I felt a quiet pride. The journey had been painful, filled with uncertainty and fear, but it had also been a testament to the power of love and truth. There were still challenges ahead, no doubt, but now, armed with transparency and trust, we were prepared to face them together, mother and daughter united against the shadows that had once threatened to tear us apart. The soft glow of the morning sun spilled through the curtains, casting a gentle light over the kitchen where Lily and I sat side by side. The wedding photos lay scattered across the table, each one a frozen moment of joy and promise. Yet beneath the smiles and celebration lay the remnants of a storm we had weathered together, a storm that had tested the very foundations of our family. Lily reached over and took my hand, her eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and newfound understanding. "Mom, I never fully grasped why you kept the inheritance a secret. I thought it was about control or mistrust, but now I see it was about protection." I squeezed her hand gently, the weight of years of silence lifting with the simple truth between us. "I wanted to shield you from the greed and complications that come with money. I feared it would change how people saw you or how you saw yourself." She nodded slowly. "I get that now, and I'm sorry I was so quick to doubt you when things got tense with Mark." We shared a quiet laugh, a release of tension that had built over months. The shadows cast by Mark's deception had faded, replaced by a fragile but real bond strengthened through honesty. "I want us to be open from now on," I said, my voice steady. "No more secrets, we'll face whatever comes next together." Lily smiled, a warmth that reached her eyes. "Agreed. I want to know everything, the good, the bad, and the complicated. I don't want to be left in the dark again." Our conversation drifted to the future, the plans for the estate, the legal protections we had put in place, and the lessons we had learned. Together, we mapped out a path that honored both my late husband's legacy and our shared commitment to transparency. I told her about the offshore accounts, the trusts, and the careful financial structures designed to safeguard the inheritance. But more importantly, I spoke of the values behind the wealth, the importance of integrity, vigilance, and family above all else. Lily listened intently, her eyes bright with determination. "I want to be part of this, Mom, not just as a beneficiary but as a guardian of what you and Dad built." Her words filled me with pride. The daughter I had protected from knowledge was now ready to step into her role with strength and wisdom. In the weeks that followed, we worked closely with Margaret to formalize our plans, ensuring that every legal safeguard was in place. We updated wills, established clear lines of communication with our financial advisors, and set protocols to prevent any future attempts at deception. But beyond the paperwork, the most significant change was the bond between Lily and me. We shared more, our hopes, fears, and dreams, building a foundation of trust that no outside force could undermine. One afternoon, as we walked through the garden, Lily turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Mom, I'm thankful for everything you did to protect me, even when it meant keeping secrets. But I'm also grateful for the honesty we have now. It feels like a new beginning." I smiled, brushing a stray leaf from her hair. "It is, and I believe that together we can face anything." The journey had been long and fraught with challenges, but it had also been a testament to resilience and love. The inheritance was more than money, it was a legacy of strength, wisdom, and the courage to protect what truly mattered. As the sun dipped low, casting a golden glow over the house that had seen so much, I felt a profound sense of peace. Lily and I stood united, ready to embrace the future with open hearts and clear eyes. In the quiet of that evening, surrounded by memories and hope, I knew that the true inheritance was not the fortune itself, but the bond we had forged, a bond that would endure beyond any trial, anchored in truth and unwavering love.